welcome to my channel. I haven't been here for quite some time, about a year. Now, I've picked up a few books throughout the months, but I really feel like now it's time to really get back into the swing of things. I've been stuck at home for many weeks, and I've decided, you know what? I've got the time, so I am just going to get back to booktubing. So here I am, and I'm going to do just that. Let's get into it, shall we? So the first book that I read this month was The Origins of Species by Charles Darwin. I borrowed this title from my library. I audiobooked it. This book was published in 1859. I've been eyeing this book for quite some time, and I am really happy that I finally read it. In this book, Charles Darwin explains his theory of evolution through a process called natural selection. So it talks about how organisms are able to adapt to their environment. He goes over how variations of individuals in a group of species can be advantageous and how that could dictate competition for things like survival and reproduction. So the simplicity of his overarching ideas are remarkable, and I really enjoyed this one long argument for how speciation came to be. So Darwin's observations are really the best. Seriously, he draws on a plethora of facts that he sees happening in the natural world and uses them as examples to further his arguments. I'm not gonna lie, this book was hard to get through. I really had to focus. Even so, it was well worth the read. After reading this book, I was like, okay, I need a little bit of light reading. So I went back to a book that I really enjoyed in the past, and that is An Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir. So the reason why I picked up this book was because the fourth book is going to come out in December, and that book is called A Sky Beyond the Storm. That is the fourth book to this series. I've already read book 1 through 3, but I'm going to go back and reread all of them in the coming months to prepare myself. It's like a refresher, and I also really enjoy these books, so why not? So I'm pretty sure most of you already know what this book is about, but for those of you who don't, we follow a girl named Leia, and she is super unsure about herself and her place in the world. She's sort of thrown in a situation where she has to put her cowardice on hold for a minute in order to save her brother, or rather rescue her brother from prison. He was imprisoned by the Martial Empire. We also follow a boy named Elias, who is the complete opposite of her. He goes to a school where he's trained to be a mask. So he's pretty much someone who Leia is raised to hate. Not gonna give too much away, but that's sort of like what happens in the beginning of the story. And that leads us to the next couple of books that I am going to talk about, and that is the Mistborn Trilogy by Sanderson. So when I first read these books, it was like 4 years ago, and for me that's a long time, so I'm like, it's about time to reread these books, to revisit them. So let me tell you about the first book, and that is The Final Empire. So in this book, the world is very dark and dreary because everything is filled with ash. So people are afraid to leave their houses because of this omnipresent thing that's there. It's called the mists. So we follow a group of criminals led by a Mistborn named Kelsier. Soon a 16-year-old girl joins this crew, and Kelsier begins to teach her allomancy. Now, allomancy is their type of magic system where you have to ingest metals and burn them. It's all very elaborate. This book just does such a fantastic job of world building. Reading this book, so I'm just like, what's gonna happen next, even though I kind of know what's gonna happen, but even so. I just love rereading these books specifically because the first time around I missed a whole bunch of stuff. Now it's like I feel like, I don't know, just like rereading them. It's a good time. So this time around I didn't necessarily read these books, I audiobooked them. The reason being, the person who narrates them, Michael Kramer, he is like the best voice actor ever. If you have not listened to any of his work, you are seriously missing out. Do yourself a favor and grab yourself one of these books and download Audible, because man, he is just like, wow. So out of all of these three, my favorite book is The Well of Ascension. There's just so much happening in this book that ties everything together. But overall, these books are just totally complex and really character driven. The last book, The Hero of Ages, is also like really good and phenomenal in my opinion. It just wraps up so nicely. The last book that I read this month was The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. We follow a boy named Kavathi, and man, does he have it rough. This book is not only filled with tragedy, but it also has a nice dosage of romance. But more so it centers on Kavathi's journey to find answers for something that happened to him when he was a child. Not gonna say what, but all in all, I love this book. It was just so gripping. I found myself turning page after page. This book is just so good. I highly recommend it if you guys are interested in high fantasy. By the way, guys, if you're interested in my ratings of these books, I don't know if you could tell, but I loved all of them. I gave them all 5 stars except for The Oceans of Species, because that one was like really hard to get through. I gave that one 4 stars. But other than that, all of them 5-star reads. Really, really good. These are my favorites. All of them are rereads except for The Name of the Wind and also obviously The Origins of Species. I'm so happy to be back. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!